Talking about the SAVE Act moving through Congress, and it could change the way Americans register to vote. It would require voters to provide documentary proof of citizenship at the time of registration and a certain type of photo ID at the time of voting. This passed the House in February. Now the question is what happens in the Senate. So joining us now to talk more about this, Max Flugrath with FairFight and what this could mean for Georgia voters. Max, good morning. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks for having me.
So if the SAVE Act becomes law, what could this mean for voters in Georgia specifically?
Well, first, I just want to say the SAVE Act doesn't actually solve any problems. Non-citizens voting is such a rare problem. It's less than 0.025%. We saw that Secretary of State Raffensperger did an audit and only found 20 non-citizens on the voter rolls out of more than 8 million. But as to how it would impact Georgia voters and how they register, so you couldn't actually register online or by mail anymore. You would have to show up in person. And, that means Georgians in rural communities across our state will have to drive further distances to present those documents, like you mentioned, in person.
Who would be most impacted by these changes?
I would say rural voters, absolutely. Young voters. I don't think any of the ID forms accepted under the SAVE Act are student ID cards. So rural voters, young voters, folks who are working multiple jobs, and have less time maybe to make that commute in person. So, it would have a widespread effect on the entire electorate, but those folks would certainly see an outsized impact.
Supporters say this is about making sure only U.S. citizens vote. I know you pointed out that fraud is very rare, and the numbers back that up. But they say this is just common sense. I mean, would you agree that the core argument that only U.S. citizens should vote in federal elections is valid?
Yeah, and that's what's happening. Again, it's so exceedingly rare that you're more likely to get struck by lightning than you are to see a non-citizen vote. And so you got to look at also what the people who are pushing this bill are saying. They're saying that without this bill, Republicans won't win another election, and that with the bill, Republicans will win every election for the next 50 years. Any laws that people are saying are going to sort of create a partisan advantage in our elections are something that you should take a closer look at, you should examine, and you should ask questions and think about the real motives behind them.
Would you offer any kind of alternative, or do you think the status quo is working just fine?
Well, I think, again, our elections have been audited here in Georgia, and we haven't found any widespread problems. So if anything, I think we need to increase the number of voting locations across the state so people have more opportunities to go vote closer to their homes, closer to where they work, so they have less lines, and additionally to sort of expand early voting. We know that when we do both of these things, participation increases. So if we really want to make elections better, those are two simple things we could do.
Max, Americans have been polled on this issue. Pew Research found 83% of Americans favor voter ID requirements. Gallup found 84% support voter ID, including 67% of Democrats on board. How do you read those numbers?
Well, I think voter ID is a common sense idea, but when you get down to the details, you have to make sure it's done fairly. And one example that I like to point to is in 2013, North Carolina passed a voter ID law. Eventually, it got blocked by a court. And when they went through the trial, what they found was that legislators in North Carolina, Republican legislators, had taken a look at data showing which types of IDs that the black citizens of their state were least likely to have. Then they made those IDs the requirement. When it was struck down, the judge said in his ruling, I believe the quote was, it targeted black voters with a near surgical precision. So again, on its face, I think voter ID makes sense, but it's when you get down to the details where you can have problems.
So you think it kind of comes down to educating voters about what it actually means?
It's that. It's also specifically what types of IDs are allowed under the bill. In a lot of places, student IDs are not allowed, right? And that's a big problem because a lot of students, maybe their ID is from a different county, maybe it's from a different state potentially, and they're using their student ID primarily when they're at school.
Max, help us understand where this goes next. We know it passed the House. It's in the Senate now. You need 60 votes to get there, which means you're going to have some Democrats crossing over, and that's assuming every Republican votes for it. Where do you see this thing going right now?
I don't see much of a pathway for it here. I mean, you saw the U.S. Senate did not pass it, then they went on their Easter recess. They don't appear to have the votes. The president continues to demand it and is trying to sort of tie other funding, important funding sources to that. But again, it doesn't seem to have any legs, so the path forward is unclear.
All right, Max Flugrath with Fair Fight. Big election year here in Georgia. We look forward to talking to you some more as the year continues. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much.